They wore the robe of justice, but behind closed doors, they sold it for power, money, and revenge. From the kids for cash judges who sold children for profit.
My kid's not here! He's dead! Because of him! He ruined my fucking life!
To a Texas jurist who traded justice for bribes, and a judge who turned her gun on his wife in a moment of rage.
And former judge Jeffrey Ferguson. Prosecutors say that the judge drunkenly pulled a gun out and shot his wife Cheryl during an argument.
These cases expose the darkest betrayal imaginable. These are the judges who once gave life sentences and now face their own. Number 10. Sonia Mcnite.
We are coming to you with breaking news out of Dauphin County. Former Dauphin County Judge Sonia Mcnite has been sentenced after being convicted for attempted murder and aggravated assault.
She was supposed to represent justice. Instead, she nearly took a life. This is the shocking case of former Pennsylvania Judge Sonia Mcnite, a woman who once decided the fate of others, now facing her own in a courtroom she used to command. In February 2023, Mcnite's life took a dark turn. For years, she sat on the Dauphin County bench, known for her sharp judgment and firm courtroom control. But away from the spotlight, her personal life was falling apart. When her relationship ended, something inside her broke, and what followed was a crime that stunned the nation. According to investigators, Mcnite drove for hours in the middle of the night to her ex-boyfriend's home. There were no calls, no threats, just silence and intent. She entered his house as he slept, stood over him, and shot him in the head at close range. Miraculously, he survived. Police later described the scene as one of deliberate violence, not fear. This wasn't a struggle, it was a plan. When officers arrested her, Mcnite didn't look like the calm figure who once sat behind the bench. The judge's robe was gone. In its place stood an accused criminal. She was charged with attempted homicide, aggravated assault, and multiple firearm violations. Her own courthouse became the place where she would now stand trial. When news first broke that former Pennsylvania Judge Sonia Mcnite had been arrested for shooting her ex-boyfriend, she tried to control the story. Through interviews and social media posts, she painted herself as the victim, claiming emotional distress and self-defense.
When you keep the faith and trust him, he said, no good thing will I withhold from you. So I'm grateful to God on this day.
Her supporters rallied quickly, calling it a misunderstanding. Many pointed to her years on the bench and her community service, convinced she could never commit such violence. But as the investigation unfolded, the truth destroyed that image. Prosecutors revealed messages, phone records, and surveillance that showed Mcnite had planned the attack days in advance. She had driven through the night, entered her ex's home while he slept, and shot him in the head. Miraculously, he survived bleeding, but conscious enough to call for help. His survival became the key evidence that unraveled her defense.
Closing is using your common sense. That's what I urge the jurors to do. There were two people in that house, and only two people in that house, and one of them, the one who was shot, said he did not shoot himself. The logical conclusion is the other person did it.
When the court released these details, public sympathy turned to shock. Those who once defended her quietly disappeared. Former colleagues refused to comment. Community members who once praised her integrity now demanded accountability. Now, as she awaits sentencing, Mcnite faces the justice system she once ruled over, only this time, she's the one waiting to hear how long she'll lose her freedom. The same system she tried to manipulate has finally turned on her. Number 9. Judge Mark A. Ciavarella Jr.
My kid's not here! He's dead! Because of him! He ruined my fucking life!
It began as a quiet scandal in a small Pennsylvania county, then exploded into one of the darkest betrayals in American justice. Judge Mark A. Ciavarella Jr., once seen as a symbol of discipline and law, was exposed for turning his courtroom into a cash machine by selling children's freedom for profit. Ciavarella wasn't an ordinary judge. He was the president judge of Luzerne County, overseeing juvenile cases from 2003 to 2008. Parents believed he stood for tough love and accountability. They trusted his authority. But behind that stern image was a secret deal that would ruin thousands of young lives. Here's how it worked. Ciavarella, along with another judge, received millions in kickbacks from the developers and operators of private juvenile detention centers.
Former judge in Pennsylvania was sentenced to almost 30 years in prison, literally, for selling children for cash.
The arrangement was chillingly simple. The more kids he locked up, the more money he got. Every harsh sentence meant profit. Even minor misbehavior like school fights, petty theft, or pranks could end with a child handcuffed and sent away. Many of these kids were first-time offenders. Some didn't even have lawyers. Parents watched in disbelief as their children were taken from the courtroom, often within minutes of the hearing. What they didn't know was that justice had been replaced by greed. The truth started to surface in 2008 when federal investigators uncovered financial records linking Ciavarella to secret payments. The numbers were shocking: $2.8 million in illegal money traced directly to his decisions on the bench. When the scandal broke, Luzerne County became the epicenter of national outrage. During his trial, victims and parents filled the courtroom. Tears, anger, disbelief, it all erupted when the guilty verdict was read. Ciavarella was convicted of racketeering.
I received a copy of a letter dated January 23rd.
In 2011, the sentence was handed down. 28 years in federal prison, one of the harshest ever given to a judge in U.S. history. Soon after, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court vacated over 4,000 juvenile convictions, declaring them unconstitutional.
I get less, but I'm happy with the 28 years without a chance of parole. I think justice was served for those kids.
But here's the unsettling truth. Ciavarella wasn't alone. His fall was just the beginning of a wave of revelations that would expose more judges who traded their duty for greed. Number 8. Judge Jose Luis Joel Cano.
Show you courtesy KFOX 14 News, and you're looking at an arrest there as former Doña Ana County Magistrate Judge Joel Cano and his wife Nancy were taken into custody.
In 2025, a quiet suburb in New Mexico became the center of a scandal that shook America's faith in its justice system. It wasn't just another case of corruption or misconduct this time. The accused was one of their own, a former judge, once trusted to uphold the law, now standing accused of helping a suspected gang member destroy it. It began when federal agents launched an operation targeting the Venezuelan gang known as Tren de Aragua, a violent criminal network feared across Latin America. During the sweep, investigators traced their search to a house in Doña Ana County, where they made an unexpected discovery. Living inside the home were former magistrate judge Jose Luis Joel Cano, his wife Nancy, and a man named Christian Ortega Lopez, an undocumented immigrant suspected of gang involvement and illegal possession of firearms. When agents moved in, what they found stunned even seasoned investigators. Phones, digital devices, and traces of communication tied to Ortega Lopez's activities filled the home. But before evidence could be secured, Joel Cano, once a man of the bench, grabbed one of the phones and struck it with a hammer. According to prosecutors, he knew exactly what he was doing. That phone allegedly contained messages, contacts, and records that could connect Ortega Lopez to violent gang operations. The Department of Justice soon filed charges against both Joel and Nancy Cano for obstruction of justice and destruction of evidence, serious federal offenses that carry heavy prison sentences. The revelation spread fast, igniting outrage across the nation. People wanted answers. How could a judge, sworn to uphold justice, destroy it with his own hands? As the investigation expanded, more troubling details surfaced. Federal prosecutors described deliberate interference, an organized effort to hide digital evidence and protect a suspect with known criminal ties. The DOJ made it clear there would be no leniency. The Canos were to be treated like any other defendants, stripped of the privileges once attached to Joel's former title. Number 7. Judge Jeffrey Ferguson.
And former Judge Jeffrey Ferguson. Prosecutors say that the judge drunkenly pulled a gun out and shot his wife Cheryl during an argument.
It began as a quiet summer evening in August 2023. In Anaheim Hills, California, Judge Jeffrey Ferguson, a respected 74-year-old jurist with decades on the bench, sat at dinner with his 65-year-old wife, Cheryl. What started as a small argument over family finances inside a Mexican restaurant quickly escalated into something far darker once they returned home. That night, as they continued to argue in their living room, Ferguson, reportedly intoxicated, reached for the gun he kept in an ankle holster. In a moment that would destroy his life and career, he pulled the trigger. Cheryl was shot dead. Prosecutors said it was deliberate, driven by anger and alcohol. Ferguson insisted it was a tragic accident that the gun went off as he tried to put it away, blaming an old shoulder injury for the misfire. The case shook California's legal system to its core. A sitting judge, once sworn to uphold justice, now stood accused of murder. The first trial ended in a mistrial. The jury deadlocked 11 to 1 in favor of conviction for second-degree murder.
shooting and killing his wife, Cheryl, at their Anaheim Hills home back on August 3rd. Ferguson's attorneys say the killing...
By April 2025, a second jury reached a verdict. Ferguson was found guilty of second-degree murder with a firearm enhancement, a legal term meaning the jury believed he intentionally used the gun during the killing. The evidence, the court later said, was absolutely overwhelming. Then came the final blow. In September 2025, Ferguson was sentenced to 35 years to life in prison, 15 years to life for murder, and another 20 years for the gun enhancement. When investigators searched his home, they uncovered 47 firearms and more than 26,000 rounds of ammunition. For many in the legal community, it was a chilling discovery, a glimpse into the private world of a judge they thought they knew. Number 6. Samuel B. Kent.
First time that a federal judge has pled guilty to a felony, has reported to prison, and has still not resigned from his office. This shows how deep Judge Kent's audacity.
He was powerful, feared, and untouchable until his own courtroom became the stage for his downfall. This is the story of Judge Samuel B. Kent, the first federal judge in U.S. history to be impeached for sexual assault.
I wasn't afraid of that at all, and that even made me more frightened.
A man once trusted to uphold justice, brought down by his own abuse of power. Judge Kent served in the Southern District of Texas, in Galveston. On the bench, he was known for his sharp tongue and commanding presence. But behind that authority was a dark secret, a pattern of harassment and intimidation hidden behind the respect that came with his robe. The first signs surfaced quietly in the early 2000s. 2 female court employees stepped forward, accusing Kent of sexual harassment and assault. At first, the system moved slowly. Complaints were brushed aside, buried under the weight of Kent's status. A federal judge with lifetime tenure was not someone easily questioned. Yet, the women refused to back down, and their persistence began to crack the wall around him.
Judge, the guards are right outside. I know they can hear us. And he said, I don't care who hears us.
By 2008, the FBI launched an investigation, and the truth began to unravel. What they uncovered shocked even veteran investigators, a disturbing trail of abuse, coercion, and lies. Kent had used his position to silence victims, manipulating the system he was sworn to defend. He was indicted for abusive sexual contact and obstruction of justice, accused of lying to investigators and intimidating his accusers. During the trial, Kent admitted to non-consensual acts, but tried to justify them by claiming he was under stress. It was a desperate excuse, and the court didn't buy it. In 2009, Judge Samuel B. Kent was sentenced to federal prison, becoming the first sitting federal judge ever jailed for sexual assault. His attempt to keep collecting his salary while in prison only fueled national anger. Congress quickly began impeachment proceedings, and after facing public outrage, Kent resigned. Number 5. Judge Thomas J. Maloney. He was supposed to deliver justice. Instead, he auctioned it off. During the 1970s and 1980s, Judge Maloney sat on the powerful Cook County bench, presiding over some of the city's most violent and high-profile criminal cases. To the public, he was stern, confident, and unshakable. But behind closed doors, he was running a secret operation, one that sold verdicts for cash. Maloney's scheme was simple but dangerous. Defense attorneys, acting as go-betweens, quietly approached him with bribes. The deal was clear: pay enough, and your client could walk free even in murder trials. Tens of thousands of dollars changed hands in hidden transactions that twisted the law itself. One case exposed just how reckless Maloney had become. 2 mob hitmen, charged with a brutal gangland murder, allegedly paid $10,000 for an acquittal. But when Maloney realized federal agents might be watching, he double-crossed them, convicting the same men he'd promised to free. It was a desperate act of self-preservation. What Maloney didn't know was that the FBI was already closing in. Under the name Operation Greylord, investigators launched one of the largest undercover stings in U.S. judicial history. For years, agents recorded conversations, tracked bribes, and followed trails of money that all led back to Maloney's chambers. In 1993, the truth finally surfaced. Judge Thomas J. Maloney was convicted of racketeering, extortion, and bribery, the very crimes he was meant to punish in others. Number 4. Michael A. Maggio. Michael A. Maggio wasn't a criminal in a robe at first glance. He was a well-liked circuit judge in Faulkner County, a man known for his composure, charm, and polished courtroom manner. But behind that calm face, Maggio was making decisions that would destroy everything he had built. In 2013, Maggio set his sights on a higher office, a seat on the Arkansas Court of Appeals. To win, he needed campaign funds. That's when ambition began to cloud his judgment. Around the same time, he was presiding over a lawsuit involving a nursing home where a woman had died due to neglect.
Mike Maggio was the person behind posts that were revealing confidential adoption information by actress Charlize Theron.
The jury awarded her family $5.2 million, a verdict that shocked the nursing home owners. The man behind that facility was Michael Morton, a wealthy businessman and political donor known for his influence in state politics. Then came the twist. Just weeks after the verdict, Judge Maggio quietly reduced the damages from $5.2 million to $1 million, which was a stunning drop. Almost immediately afterward, campaign donations began flowing into Maggio's election fund through several political action committees linked to Morton. The timing was too precise to ignore. When federal investigators started piecing it together, the pattern was unmistakable. Messages, donation trails, and legal filings told the story clearly. Maggio had accepted bribes disguised as campaign support. The FBI called it a classic quid pro quo money for a manipulated judgment. Confronted with overwhelming evidence, Maggio eventually admitted the truth. In 2015, he pleaded guilty to bribery and was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison. The man who once handed down sentences now faced one himself. Number 3. Judge Manuel Acevedo Hernandez. In Puerto Rico, the name Judge Manuel Acevedo Hernandez once stood for authority, discipline, and integrity. But when the truth came out, it revealed something far darker, a judge who had turned justice itself into a business. The scandal that followed didn't just end his career. It shattered public trust in the island's judicial system. For years, Acevedo Hernandez served in the Utuado Municipal Court, known as a no-nonsense judge who demanded order in his courtroom. But behind that stern image, prosecutors say he was quietly selling influence, using his power to trade justice for money and political favors. What began as whispered rumors eventually caught the attention of federal investigators, and soon, the FBI was watching closely. By 2012, the investigation exposed the shocking reality. The judge was part of a corruption network that mixed politics, cash, and court decisions. He accepted bribes, manipulated judicial appointments, and favored individuals who supported his political allies. Federal agents described it as a cash for justice operation, a system where verdicts could be influenced and careers could be bought. The evidence was overwhelming. Wiretaps, testimonies, and paper trails all pointed to a man who had betrayed the very institution he was meant to protect. When agents finally moved in, Acevedo Hernandez was arrested on charges of conspiracy, bribery, and honest services fraud. The image of a sitting judge being led away in handcuffs shocked Puerto Rico, a symbol of justice now facing justice himself. In 2013, the verdict came down. Guilty on all counts. The same courtroom formality he once controlled now decided his fate. He was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison, stripped of his title and reputation. The sentence sent a clear message: no robe, no rank, no power can protect someone from the law they swore to uphold. But even after the trial ended, the damage lingered. Investigators uncovered a deeper web of political manipulation, suggesting Acevedo Hernandez was not acting alone. His case exposed how easily corruption can spread when oversight fails. Number 2. Judge John J. Devine.
In Houston, I'm known as the Ten Commandments Judge because we successfully fought off an attack.
He called himself the Ten Commandments Judge, but behind that title was a story that would shake the foundations of Texas justice. This is the rise and fall of Judge John J. Devine, a man who went from the state's highest court to a federal prison cell. It began in the late 1990s. Judge Devine made headlines when he refused to remove a Ten Commandments monument from his courtroom, even after being ordered to do so. That single act branded him a hero to religious conservatives and a rebel to the legal establishment. He built his entire reputation on that defiance, and in 2012, it paid off. He was elected to the Texas Supreme Court, campaigning as a conservative devoted to faith, morality, and what he called true American values. But behind the public image, warning signs were already there. Over the years, ethics complaints began to pile up. Lawyers and watchdog groups accused Devine of crossing the line of using his judicial seat to advance political and religious causes. Some claimed he accepted campaign donations from individuals who later appeared in his courtroom. Others pointed to speeches and rulings that seemed more like political sermons than legal decisions. The question quietly grew louder. Was Devine serving justice or serving an agenda? Then, everything changed in 2024. Leaked emails and messages exposed something far deeper. They showed Devine communicating with far-right activists, allegedly working behind the scenes to influence cases on abortion restrictions and election disputes. The leaks suggested coordination with political operatives to pressure other judges and sway legal outcomes. That revelation hit like a thunderclap across Texas. The Texas Commission on Judicial Conduct quickly launched an inquiry. What they uncovered went beyond politics. It was a web of influence, manipulation, and abuse of office. By 2025, federal prosecutors stepped in. Devine was charged with obstruction of justice, corruption, and misuse of judicial authority. Number 1. Judge Lanell Williams-Yulee. In 2009, Lanell Williams-Yulee, a judicial candidate in Hillsborough County, Florida, was running for county judge. Her campaign appeared clean and professional, until one envelope changed everything. Inside that envelope was a personal request for campaign donations, signed by Williams-Yulee herself. What seemed like a harmless fundraising letter was, in fact, a direct violation of one of the most sacred rules in the American judicial system. Judges are strictly forbidden from personally soliciting money. The rule exists for one reason: to keep judges fair, unbiased, beyond the reach of financial influence. But once that letter surfaced, her reputation began to crumble. The Florida bar quickly stepped in, accusing her of breaching judicial conduct rules. The violation wasn't dismissed as a minor oversight. It became a full-scale legal showdown. Williams-Yulee faced disciplinary action, and the Florida Supreme Court suspended her license, sending a clear message that no judge was above the ethical code. Yet, Williams-Yulee didn't back down. She argued that punishing her for asking for donations violated her First Amendment right to free speech. Her defense split the legal community. Was she a rule breaker, or was she challenging an outdated restriction on political expression? The case escalated all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court in 2015. The nation held its breath as the justices weighed in. In a narrow 5-4 decision, the court ruled against Williams-Yulee. Chief Justice John Roberts, writing for the majority, stated that protecting public trust in an impartial judiciary outweighed a judge's right to personally